Hello, good morning. Rachel Johnson here, and welcome to another edition of Ask Cascadia Live. Today we are answering a few questions about shipping plans, about the current trade war, about some toys and games differentiation, and some arbitrage questions. So if you have any questions about selling on Amazon, please post them in the chat and we'll answer them as we go along. So feel free to post any kind of question you've got. If you're watching the replay, type replay so that we know to answer those after this session is over. All right, so first question this morning. I started my shipping plan and have only had bad surprises. First, the shipment is split to 3 different locations, and of course is more expensive. Yep. I tried to find workarounds, but no success. I subscribe to the Amazon placement fee service and have one single address to ship to. The service costs $4 per unit. Yikes, what are you selling? Now I have one single address, but on the West Coast. My shipping cost estimation was, however, based on a Dallas ship code. This change increases my cost estimation up to $500. At the end, I have an increase of $700. Is there anything I could have done better? Wow. So I'm assuming this person has a fairly large item that they're shipping because normally the shipping costs are not quite that high. So for anything where you're trying to have a placement fee, or you're trying to manage Amazon's propensity to ship things to different places, there's one really simple approach that you can take, and that is to case pack your items. And by case pack, what I mean is that you tell Amazon that it's case packed, but Amazon doesn't ever validate that. So until they fix that, which I hope they never do, then you can just switch to case packed and put in, say, if you have 20 units that you're sending or 50 units that you're sending, put in 50 units in one case, and now it goes to one place. Okay, so you can't control where Amazon sends it to. They're probably going to send it to some sort of large fulfillment FC that handles inbound case packs if you do it that way. So that's one thing to keep in mind. It might go to like California or to Kentucky or something like that, one of the big fulfillment centers, but that would still send it to one place. The other thing is that if you choose the placement service, $4 a unit must be for a very large product, because normally it's like 20 cents a unit for a sortable item. So for doing that, again, I much prefer the case pack route, and just put things in a big box and call it good. The benefit there is that you're not paying for placement. The drawback there is that you're not paying for placement, so you're just having to get lucky that Amazon sends it to one place. The other drawback is that if you're sending like 5, 7, 900 at a time, then you need to do 100 unit case packs. So you may end up sending 400 to one place and 300 to another. But again, the goal here is to try to, especially for this person, it seems like there's not that many that they're shipping at once. And so then you just call it case packed for a large amount and then ship it that way. Okay, next question. Kathy asks, who do you recommend to ship door to door from US to Australia? Someone knowledgeable about customs perhaps has a permit that would extend to me. Having trouble finding a way to get pet food in the country. Oh, pet food. Yeah, so you're going to have a challenge with any sort of ingestibles or highly regulated items in Australia. Australia has a fairly robust regulatory environment, and they do a pretty good job of checking things that come into their borders. So you're going to need someone who specializes in food. I had someone for regular consumer goods, but food is going to be a little more complicated. I would suggest reaching out to INLT. INLT handles all of our stuff going into the US and to Europe, and they have connections all over the globe. And so they would be good to handle something like that, or to find someone who can. That's what they specialize in. So I would reach out to INLT. And that is INLT. And they're really nice guys too. Okay. And Lisa, she's there, and Irma asked to make sure about outside the group. Yes, we will. We'll be making a separate post just for Relentless Women, that if you want to share it or tell other people about it, then you absolutely can, because we really believe in this. And I can't tell you, the very first time that I spoke at an Amazon conference was actually at the Sellers Conference, which is run by Rhonda Schneider. Some of you may know I think I got her last name right. Anyway, it's Rhonda. And a lot of you may know Rhonda, and she's just this lovely, sweet woman, and she's been around for a while and ran the most successful initial conference, and then it just kind of got a little bit older. It's hard to maintain success for a decade plus doing the same thing without changing it up. And the second one that I spoke at was at Prosper. And that one, when I first signed up to be a speaker at Prosper, I was one of 2 women out of about 50 speakers. And it was kind of like, seriously, you guys couldn't find anybody else to speak? Like, that's not possible for you to find anyone else to speak? And we believe that's not the case. We believe there's lots of smart and capable women who are able to speak on these topics. Okay, next question from Gabriella. How can I prevent used customer returns from being regraded and sent back out? FBA product. This is in mouth snore guard. Used, yuck. Yeah, totally 100% agree, gross. So the only way that you can really prevent that 100% is to get it into one of the personal care categories. They don't tell you which ones those are, but basically the personal care category treats it like food. And sometimes even food doesn't get handled properly, but the personal care category basically prevents any returns. So it just can't come back. Customers complain about that. You do get negative reviews if you can't return something. So that's the only way to 100% prevent it. If it's not in one of those personal care categories, it always will go back to Amazon to be handled. So that's something where you really can't prevent it necessarily. So what you can do is you can make the box more obvious that it's been opened. We've had situations with clients where there was like a kitchen appliance that came back and went out to another customer, and the customer was like, "This thing was full of food. It's so gross." Yes, super gross. But that's something that is really common, because if someone packages it up really neatly and neatly tapes it shut, the Amazon associate, just so you guys know, this is what's happening at the returns FC. They have maybe like 30 seconds to evaluate the product, to log in all the information in their system, to hit submit, and then put that product into the bin. It's really that fast. They are moving so fast. So you've either got to make it to where it's really super obvious that it was returned, and with something like this, you'd want to make it really obvious, like some sort of big sticker on there that had to be ripped open, something to make it just like ridiculously obvious that it was open. Or you need to make it to where it's not obvious at all, and so the next customer can't tell. So for some client products, it makes sense to do the not obvious at all route, where, like especially with cords or anything like that, we never wrap them in plastic, no ties, no nothing, so that if someone wraps it back up and puts it in the box, no one can tell it was ever used. Trying to make it as easy as possible there. But for something like a snore guard, I would first check and see if it can be moved into a personal care subcategory, one that doesn't allow returns, because gross. But if not, then change the packaging to where you're covering the opening. Like I always recommend those kind of envelope boxes. I think those ones are the best for this, because then you can cover a big sticker over the flap of the envelope box. And so when someone opens it, it's really obvious. You can't neatly tape that up. It's clearly been opened. So that makes it to where the associate can look at, oh, opened, okay, I'll put it over here and unsellable. So it just makes it a little bit more likely that the associate will realize that it's been returned. No guarantees. There's still employees who have bad days, who are working way too fast. Okay. Next question. Kara asks, I have an air shipment that was labeled with the correct FNSKU manufacturer SKU, but when received at Amazon FC was checked in under a different SKU. Yeah. I called them as soon as I saw it up and inbound. Their answer was to wait until reconciled, then do a bin check. It's currently an FC transfer. When it gets to the FC, will they scan the unit's FC label? They have the correct FNSKU label, so if they're scanned, they should show up on the correct offer, right? Maybe. Unfortunately, that is not always the case. So what we've seen a couple of times is that Amazon just doesn't know how to receive something that may have been mislabeled or labeled underneath the box or labeled on the side, whatever. So we always recommend that when you're shipping to Amazon, you have the FNSKU label or the manufacturer label facing up in the box. So when they first open the box, the first thing they see is the labels, because they're always in such a big fat hurry that they may not pick it up and realize that there's a label on this box somewhere. I had that happen multiple times when shipping in apparel at first to my own account. And the first couple times I'd put the label on bottom because the brand name was on top, the brand name sticker. And so I was like, well, the other sticker is on bottom. Well, multiple times I went and re-stickered it all and charged me 20 cents for it. I was really pissed off. Like, so annoying. But they'll often re-sticker it and not charge you for it, thinking that you made a mistake or that they're helping you fix it. And what they're actually doing is putting the wrong FNSKU on. We actually just had this happen with a client and basically had to return everything back to her. Like everything had to be removed. And don't forget, the removals are not 100% successful. So sometimes you have to double check and run a second removal to get everything out. Fun. And then when she got everything back, or at least started getting everything back and everything was in reserved or out, then we could ship in new stuff again. So that was super frustrating and really annoying. But basically what they did was there were too many items that were shipped from the manufacturer for this particular client's issue. And so Amazon was like, yeah, it looks like this one, slapped the wrong label on it. With another client, they couldn't get the first one to scan. Like there must have been something damaged on it or something like that. And then they marked it as unscannable and then relabeled all of his stuff with the wrong variation. So that happens on a regular basis. Again, I've only seen it happen 3 times in the last 2 years, but when it happens, it's really irritating and you can't get Amazon to fix it. You do have to remove everything. They won't go in and fix it. Okay. Let's see. Marina asks, I have cute names for colors for one of my products: caramel, chocolate, blueberry, avocado, raspberry. Can it create confusion on Amazon if I include it in titles? Should I call it beige, brown, blue, green, red? Beige, brown, blue, green, red is boring. You want to put the beige, brown, blue, green, and red in your color map. So people will search by color map on the left-hand side, the filters. So they'll use the color map there. But in your title, I would totally use those. Those are fun. Those are fun. And a lot of people are perfectly capable of knowing that avocado is not really avocado. There's one client who has things named like sorbet and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's much more fun. Do it that way. You might get some kind of challenges with advertising if you're trying to advertise for brown or whatever. And so just make sure that brown is in the bullets somewhere. So the rich brown hues of our caramel whatever, right? So then you've got both of the colors in the bullets. So include that somewhere, but the title is great. I like that. Tiffany blue, nice. Can we just upload a new category for personal care? Will Amazon reject? No, and you can just upload it, but there are multiple personal care subcategories. This is a follow-up to the returns question. The multiple personal care subcategories aren't listed. So you have to know which one is actually a personal care subcategory. They're kind of back-end settings. And so one that I do know of is in the category is like back supports. Like there's certain things that, because I tried to buy one and couldn't return it. But there's no like public database or anything where you can go and check if there's something that's returnable. They don't make that public to the sellers. Let's see. Gabriella asks, need to connect with us on help with product compliance and returns. Just contact us at info@thinkcascadia. That's our catch-all inquiry space, and Christina makes sure that someone responds during the week, and on the weekend I check it. So that's info@thinkcascadia. Okay, next question. What's your take on how the current trade situation with China affects Amazon sellers, particularly newbies and small fries who are already in a tight budget? Okay, so my opinion is that you shouldn't do important things like international trade by tweet. I think that's a bad idea. That was really annoying. Between the couple of tweets that went back and forth between the president and I think it was the trade representative was the one who was also doing it, the CBP didn't handle any filings for a couple of days because they didn't know what to do. You can't just legislate by tweet. That's silly. It means that nobody knows what to do and everything gets stuck. And so CBP wasn't taking filings. No one was able to import their stuff for a couple of days until everything got clarified. It was kind of crazy. So my take on it is that basically there's a very clear and kind of interesting, maybe the word is almost religious fervor about not buying things from China. I feel like this was something for the president that was very much the same for Japan in the 80s for him. He seems to have a very strong feeling about not buying cream from China. So I don't think that will be changing. What we've seen with our clients is that we've done more domestic sourcing where we can, especially for textiles. We've been trying to do domestic sources for other items, but the problem is for the last 20 years, basically American manufacturing has been gutted, especially small batch manufacturing. And so basically the only ones who survived were the big ones who had really consistent accounts, and they don't take on small companies and they don't take on small shipments. So it's kind of frustrating that there wasn't more time to invest in domestic manufacturing or to find alternative countries to work with. So we're also looking into India and Pakistan. We're looking into Vietnam for clients. Basically, wherever we can find potential sources, we're going to. But I would expect that the days of having everything be super easy coming out of China are over for now. The list of items that have very large tariffs is quite long. It's already been, with the size of the tariffs and the increase in the labor rates in China, it was already competitive to do cut and sew in the US. So we actually are majority owners in a factory in Tennessee, and we are able to compete in terms of labor costs with China. The labor costs have gone way up in China in the last couple of years. And so the only thing that can really be a advantage, I guess, in terms of textiles coming out of China is that their factory mills are a little bit cheaper. So you can buy fabric a little bit cheaper, but then you have to wait for it to be produced for a couple months and then ship across the ocean. Whereas here, you can get fabric in 3 to 6 weeks, depending on if they have it on hand or if they've got to make it for you. So the cost of having your money tied up is much lower. So what I would expect is that people will just go with different locations. They'll go with small batch in the US. There's a lot of small batch manufacturing for the textile space, a ton really. If you're interested in finding out more about small batch manufacturing for textiles, then I would suggest going to makersrow.com. They're pretty good for textiles. If you're looking at something that's more of a mold item, something you need to make a mold and then produce, like foam items or plastic items, et cetera, anything that's like molded, and then you put whatever the stuff is in there, Thomasnet is fantastic for the US. They have a lot of really good listings, and you can find some really great stuff. So as far as how the trade situation with China affects Amazon sellers, I don't think it will unless you put all of your eggs into the China basket. Use global sources, find sources outside of China. Alibaba is full of Chinese trading companies. If you are searching on Alibaba and AliExpress, you're going to find a lot of Chinese trading companies. I highly suggest going on to global sources and finding folks in Southeast Asia, Indonesia, India, Pakistan. There's some really good production coming out of Africa, actually. A couple of the clothes I bought recently were actually from Kenya. So maybe you can find some stuff there. But basically the concept is here that the current administration really can't stand China. And so find somewhere else to source from. It seems to be a very personal feeling, and that I don't think will change. So don't expect it to. Don't expect it to be overridden. That's what the president gets to do is make changes like this. So if you're concerned about the prices and the challenges of sourcing in China, source somewhere else. The people that I'm concerned about are the ones who didn't have a chance to source somewhere else because they've been sourcing in China. That's why you don't legislate by tweet and you give people a time period where they can change. Because if you gave them, 60 to 90 days, then we could have been sourcing somewhere else. Yeah, that's a different subject. All right, next one. I'm a new seller and it looks like I made a huge mistake. I sent $3,000 of peanut cups inventory to Amazon. I now see that Amazon does not accept any multiple products from May 1st to September 30th, and most likely it will be disposed of. Currently, it is in receiving status. Can you please tell me what I can do at this point? Thank you. Honestly, all that you can really do is ask Amazon to return it and put it into unfulfillable and have it returned to you. Honestly, that's all that you can do. Anytime you're trying to do something in a new category, it's super important that the time that you spend researching what you're doing is just as significant as the time that you spend thinking about the profits you can make. I know it feels like, I'm going to slow down, I'm going to miss something, it's going to be bad. But there's so many places to know that you can't ship multiples in the summer. it just gets too hot. You know, even here in Seattle this last week, it was like 90 degrees in my apartment. That would have melted any chocolate, right? And you don't want things to arrive to customers melted. So of course they have that rule. Always take the extra step. You know, I worked for a company a couple of years ago that gave out Tiggers as awards. Like, I'm not joking, like 100 Acre Wood, Winnie the Pooh, Tigger kind of awards. They would do stuffed Tiggers in various sizes. Not joking. If you got like the annual sales award for the year, it was like a really big Tigger. And their whole thing was Tiggers jump, Tiggers do, Tiggers get out there, we're Tiggers. And the problem is Tigger often gets himself stuck in a tree. So sometimes that can happen. Honestly, I don't think there's much that can be done here except to ask Amazon to mark it as unfulfillable and return it to you. The challenge may be that even if you do have that happen, they may have already been melted in the meantime. It's already pretty warm across most of the US. Okay, next thing, suspended from merchant fulfillment to Amazon Canada, how to respond to Amazon in plan. So for merchant fulfillment in Canada, we worked on a couple of these cases, and for that, it really needs to be a really detailed plan. Otherwise, they just won't let you do it anymore, and you've got to do FBA. And FBA is annoying because then you've got products sitting in Canada that changes your tax status and some other stuff, which is kind of not the best situation. So for that, you need to have a really clear reason why you missed it and a really clear reason how you're going to fix it in the future, to where it's clear that you've learned the lesson. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for you to learn your lesson. And so you got to basically convince them that it was a one-off thing, you completely understand what the issue was, and it won't happen again. And that can be a little bit difficult to kind of get their help, to get people on the Amazon side to believe you, because they hear so many sellers like, oh, I just screwed up once, I won't ever do it again. Like, you've got to be really specific and actionable in your steps, attach an SOP, demonstrate how you're logging things differently, demonstrate the difference in how you're picking things for Canada, whatever the case may be. Find a way to show them that in a very specific, concrete way, you've made changes to your business. Okay, next question. And this is the last question that I have. So if you have more questions, pop those into the chat as soon as you can. Okay, I'm in the toys and games category and basically manufacturing my own product. Awesome, so I differentiate well enough. I'm going through rigorous toy testing and labeling requirements, yet I'm pretty sure none of my competitors have done this. When I reach out to suppliers for similar products, none of them have CPC certificates. I even order my competitor's product and they don't even have a tracking label on the product or packaging that I'm told I need in order to have the CPC certificate. Am I trying to follow a rule that isn't enforced? Am I in the dark about something? I just don't understand. Yes, it is enforced by everyone but Amazon. This is my soapbox. It really ticks me off. It's super, super annoying that Amazon does not enforce the very clear requirements of CPSA in the US. They don't require it for vendors. They don't require it for sellers. The only thing that they require from vendors are import vendors, and they require it. Otherwise, they are not requiring this documentation. It is legally required. If someone does not have that documentation, you can prove it. Then you need to go onto saferproducts.gov. So that's saferproducts.gov and file a report to the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission. That's the U.S. governmental agency that enforces this stuff, and submit that report directly to them. Say, I tried to find a tracking label on this product and I couldn't find it. They do not appear to have a CPC. I'm concerned that the product is not safe for children. And file that report directly to the government. That government agency follows up on any sort of what are called Section 15 reports. Section 15B basically says that if anyone has knowledge of a safety issue or a safety concern about a consumer product, that they are entitled to report it to the agency. And then the agency will then do their own investigation. So definitely go to saferproducts.gov and report this. You should also report it to Amazon. You can report it via case and request it be transferred to the product safety team. So you want it to go to Amazon Product Safety. So you need to ask sales support to switch it to them. Sometimes they'll switch it to the wrong team and then it'll get resolved. So you need to file the case to go to Amazon Product Safety, request a seller support transfer it, and use those exact words. Please transfer to Amazon Product Safety for investigation. And then list out exactly what you've just said in this section where you said that they don't have a tracking label and they don't appear to have a CPC. It's really important that you say to Amazon Product Safety, because that's the only team at Amazon that actually does test report investigations. And they can be reached through case, not through email, okay? Definitely don't avoid this, because the State Attorney General of Washington State just announced last week. I posted a video on it because as soon as I saw it, I was super excited. They have basically sued Amazon, and Amazon cooperated and has agreed to pay a $700,000 settlement for selling a bunch of non-compliant stuff on the website, allowing it to be sold by third parties. And I think it was something like 10 to 12% or so of the items that they tested failed. So yeah, definitely in line with what I've seen, what you're obviously referencing here. Keep being on top of this, because hopefully between the State Attorney General of Washington State and between Amazon actually starting to take ownership of this, the bad actors will be kicked out, because it's not fair for good sellers who care, to be making products that are compliant that won't poison the kids that they work on. I mean, we did some testing, and we did some testing about a year and a half ago, and for the products that we tested, one of them failed for choking. We only tested 12 products. There was a citrus juicer, and acid leaches out of metals. There was citrus juicers that failed for lead. Like, come on, it's a juicer. Like, okay. There was a children's toy that failed for a choking hazard, and it was intended for toddlers. So of course they put things in their mouth. There was another children's product that failed for phthalates. It was like a little decorative thing that you could use as a toy or as decoration on food. That was like part of the idea. Phthalates are plasticizers that soften plastic and can cause growth abnormalities in reproductive organs. So it makes boys more girly and girls more womanly. Not fun, right? Especially when you're trying to take care of your kids. And there was a fourth failure for in the children's products space for lead in a child's product. So this is just out of 12 products. We had a solid quarter of them to a third. About a third of them had major failures, and then all of them failed for labeling. So the rule is enforced, just not as much as it could be. All right. Actually, I did have one last question that was on my list. OA question. I received my first shipment of products that I bought online. The problem is that on one of the products there are two barcodes. One on top of the bag is a label, and one is the other inside the bag, attached to the product itself as a tag with the price and the same barcode. The price on the tag is in Canadian dollars with a Canadian flag printed on it. What would you recommend me do in this case at all? You need to make sure that there's only one tag showing because of the scanner. Amazon will call it a misreceive if you have two labels on it. So you need to cover at least one of them with a blank tag, and then cover the other one with the correct tag. Okay, so that's the main thing. Is from a customer perspective, I don't think it's that important, but from a Amazon perspective, you absolutely don't want to have the two barcodes, because then they'll misreceive it and they'll set it aside to be retagged, which is annoying. You don't want to do that. Aaron asks, so if it remains suspended from Canada, will it affect the U.S. account? No. That's just merchant fulfillment. So if they just ban you from merchant fulfillment, they just don't want you to have bad numbers for the Canadian customers. That's all. So it won't affect you. Gabriella asks, can I add an email address or phone number in a post-purchase email? You are allowed to send a customer service phone number. You are not allowed to add a customer service email. So you can do the 1-800 number, whatever you've got. We use Zendesk, so you can get a phone number through Zendesk pretty easily. You can include the customer service phone number, but you can't do the email. When they call you, then say whatever you want. But when they are emailing you through the Amazon encrypted system, you want to make sure to follow the rules and just do the customer service phone number, and be sure to call it, call customer service or call customer support or customer care or whatever at X phone number. Okay. All right. Those are all the questions that I have for today. And we are a little bit over time anyway, so that works. If there are any other questions, as usual, please type those in as replay and we'll answer them after the session. So thank you so much for joining us today. And if you enjoyed the Q&A, please like the video, much appreciated. And if you know anyone who can use the information we've shared here today, please add them to the group or suggest that they join the group and tag them in this presentation. And join us next Wednesday for another episode of Ask Cascadia Live.